This is going to be my part 2, revolving around really not just a situation with that homeless boy in, I guess, Hollywood or something like that, but just like the situation with laying low till 18, homelessness, society in general. That's what this is going to be about. Because, of course, something that I started doing a while ago now is actually like showing people's comments on certain things and talking about people's different situations for things that go on, and also the brainwashed cognitive dissonance field and even perpetrator type people and how they respond to certain things. This is probably going to be more than a part 2 though, because like I already have so many screenshots to where just 5 seconds of each screenshot added up to like 1 minute and 38 seconds. So this is probably going to be broken up into multiple parts. So the part 3 is probably not even going to be the part 3. Because I already have some screenshots set to the side for the part 3. But I feel like this right here is going to break into probably 2 or 3 parts. So, anyway, this first screenshot is from a whole nother video, but I just wanted to put this in here because this and the next 2 screenshots really go along with how people feel about quote unquote kids and commonly even other people in general, due to the fact that, of course, like it says in, I don't even think that's Revelation, I think that's Mark, maybe it's Matthew, but the in the last days the love of people will grow cold, or the love of many will grow cold. Also a couple other things that go along with that, but that's what these first 3 screenshots make me think of, and they go along what a lot of the comments you're going to see throughout this. I'm going to link this video in the description. This was from a video of some dude, quote unquote, interviewing an FBI agent who supposedly used to do sting operations for child SA trafficking, if I can even say that much. I didn't even watch the whole thing, but from what I did watch, the whole thing was definitely some bullcrap. This dude obviously was in on it, which makes sense since he was in the FBI. And he's definitely doing some controlled opposition type stuff, because you can tell by how he talks about the stuff that happened. For one, he's not saying jack. He's really sugarcoating everything and saying as little as possible. And you can also tell that he's okay with this stuff and was not only taking part in it, but seeing nothing wrong with it. You may know about NAMBLA. That's something people used to talk about a lot in 2016 or the 2010s, before all those people that used to talk about it got banned and stuff. You can still find articles about it. This organization kind of even goes along with something that I mentioned before in the quote-unquote adoption video, where Balenciaga, some of the subliminal messages that they showed during that whole campaign thing that they obviously purposely released for whatever reason, where they showed different kids that they kidnapped and some other stuff. They had some papers, and when people zoomed in, they saw that it said something about the laws that were passed a long time ago to make child essay animation legal. Which, I mean, honestly, was any of this stuff ever really illegal? But yeah, so I know some of it they call lowly kind. I don't really know. I can't remember what they call the other stuff. But NAMBLA also had a lot to do with the child essay robots and the child essay animation that people call hentai and some other things becoming legal. And I say it like that because, like, how illegal was it ever really, if that even came out right? To expose these sickos, a local morning talk show host in my town put on the radio the opening talk for some big NAMBLA conference. The speaker opened with an analogy about how you don't ask a shoe for permission to put your foot in it. So why should children need you to give permission? I wanted to vomit on how they view these kids as objects, as inconsequential as a shoe. This was 10 years ago and opened my eyes to how bold and unashamed this organization is. Makes me shudder for our children. And of course, the goal of a communist or globalist society, as I always say, is what do I always say? How do I break it down? Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Traumatize and turn out the kids so they never become fully functioning adults. So that way they'll accept and go along with any agenda that's pushed by the elites. And like I also started saying back when I was still doing the abuse evidence videos that I used to do, that I try to not bring up but still do. I always would say, once I really started to think about the whole situation with the Cash for Kids system more, child abuse is an agenda, not a coincidence, because it goes along with the whole communist slash globalist society thing I just mentioned. Also, another thing with that is that the corporations and the government owns your kids, you don't. Kind of a side thing, but yeah. So, anyway, I put this in there because this is really how a lot of people not only view kids or youth, but other people in general. And a lot of the comments that were made towards this boy and other people in situations like him really show that people see him as nothing but a bum. And I mean, some people, obviously not everybody, but some people see him as nothing but a bum or a quote unquote bad, mentally ill, slow person. Because, of course, those three labels are used a lot. And it goes along with America or the Western world, specifically their agenda that they have with mental illness and all these mental labels. Everybody's bipolar, everybody has ADHD, everybody has OCD, everybody has anxiety, which is done by design anyway. But these made up labels are really nothing but insults and ways to put people down, and now everybody's claiming them because the real goal of people throwing around these labels is to normalize all of it anyway. This is obviously from another video. This is from somebody's upload of a, what do they call it? Is it called a collab? I think that's what, no, a collage? I don't even know. But they edited together a couple different, kind of old, but some new Ali Carter videos, and they re-uploaded them. I'm going to put this video in the description too, if I can find it. I try to put all the videos that I'm going to use in a playlist so I can remember to actually put them in the description, but sometimes I still don't, or I don't remember to put them in the playlist, and then it takes a while for me to find them. But anyway, that's what this is from. Protect the people coming forth, protect the children. Actually, no, that's not even what I screenshot this for. Wait a minute. I read these comments and I am reminded that there are literally two completely different worlds going on simultaneously, and most people have no idea. And you know what though? If you go through lower level or higher level Cash for Kids system abuse, or if you just go through like a lot of traumatic stuff in general, you'll even really feel like you live in a completely different world than other people do. And honestly, even before I started going through the Cash for Kids system stuff, like I said before, I started looking into like a lot of this trafficking stuff way back when I was 7 anyway, so I had kind of already learned stuff and even noticed things just in society in general that a lot of people are too brainwashed to see, or they're brainwashed and in a lot of cognitive dissonance because they don't want to really see things for how they are, because they want to be able to go to sleep at night and all that. So there's that. Now this comment right here, this really got to the point. When you have wicked comments, it's probably by those wicked people. I believe you, young lady. 100%. Everything is being revealed. Keep telling your truth. These things were never really that hidden, but things are definitely somewhat still coming out more because, of course, like I already said in another video, actually, no, I don't even think I uploaded that yet, but we've been in the judgment dispensation since the beginning of 2024. So that's why more things are coming out. Also, this is the time that the idols are supposed to be falling. So all these people that people look up to, some people are still gonna like make up excuses for them, but all these people that are idolized and lifted up in idolatry are about to fall. In fact, a lot are even getting a full blown die, if I can say that without this being flagged. So, yeah. This is one of the last few comments I screenshotted from the interview with, whatever his name is. I can't even remember. But I'll put the video in the description. This was also the video that the part 1 was on. And then he started popping up in even more interviews for whatever reason. I really don't know why. I'm not gonna lie. It really doesn't make sense to me. It's just so risky. Ignore background noise. I just wish the best for Billy. I will say, as a former runaway who ran away from Atlanta, GA, to Venice Beach, California, Venice is nowhere a young teen needs to be homeless at. Runaways, boys and girls, get very exploited, and that beach and that close to West Hollywood, not a good spot for him. Exactly. That's what makes me worry too. At all. I hope they can help him, but he admitted he's a habitual runner. I was too, over 20 times in 3 years, as a preteen till emancipated at 16. And it is kind of easier to get emancipated in Cali too. In fact, there are some people that have ran to Cali just to get emancipated and be able to go to college and all that stuff. Not trying to ramble. He will run again, sadly. Here's one of the bullcrappy comments. It's sad seeing this because I can predict his future as a 14-year-old dropout being raised in the streets. Shaking my head. He has no future until he wakes up and gets back in school and housed. Okay, so there's obviously so much I could say about this. For one, he didn't drop out. He never said he dropped out. He can't go to school for multiple reasons with his situation. So, one, when you're being dragged through different branches of the Cash for Kids system, you commonly don't get to go to school because you're locked up so much. And these placements don't actually have schools in them. Like, I know the mental health system branch of the Cash for Kids system pretends that they have schools, some of them at least, but they really don't. There are no schools in them. Although schools are technically supposed to still pass you anyway because of legal things, but I heard that the No Child Left Behind thing was done away with a while ago, like a few years ago. But pretty much you either don't get to go to school, so you get held back over and over again, or the school will pass you anyway, even though you're not there. And honestly, I feel like that's really fraudulent, but that can commonly happen. I know that's what was done for me for a while, because I pretty much didn't get to go to middle or high school due to my situation. And I was passed a lot somehow, but they supposedly, dang, they supposedly legally have to. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, now the jail systems, they do have schools commonly, especially the adult ones. But it's kind of like, I mean, if you're not getting out though, then what? And they're actually offering more stuff, quote unquote offering, because of course these systems are tied to slavery, and they really just want you to like get these jobs and become the new slave and even make money for the prison system. That's kind of a side thing though. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, another thing. You need a parent to enroll you in school. And then in some places, it seems like once you turn 18 and you want to enroll yourself in high school, if you're enrolling yourself in high school but you don't have a parent to do it, then you're kind of looked at as like some type of predator. And they're kind of like, well, I mean, if you're already on your own, why do you even want to go to high school anyway if you're already living by yourself and taking care of yourself? It's honestly really weird. And then they just try to push you off to adulthood and just tell you to get a GED or whatever. Not that that really makes much of a difference. I mean, I remember there was this dude who he went to university for a couple of things and he graduated. I know one of them was something IT related. He made video games, and he was making a joke about how one job had turned him away because even though he had a university degree, like I think a bachelor's, they still felt some type of way about him not having a high school diploma. But Honestly, something that you'll learn is that a lot of places don't really care that much about the high school diploma versus GED thing, because people get through high school and they pass and get a whole diploma and they can't even read nor count. So, yeah. The thing about a GED is that you actually have to know how to do that stuff to get it. In fact, a lot of college professors will they'll tell you this, and some teachers may even tell you that getting a GED is harder than getting a high school diploma. I just thought of this other story that I used to mention all the time. So I remember this was during the early days of my Cash for Kids system situation. There's this boy I met in this one placement, and he turned 16 in there. I remember his birthday was in December. That was so sad though. Like all the kids were in there crying because they had nobody to visit them for Christmas, and they couldn't go home for the holidays. Of course, some of the people in there, they had that usual thing that I would mention all the time where the mental health system branch of the Cash for Kids system will play foster care, and instead of sending the kids to group home and notifying CPS about the situation, they would keep the kid for as long as the medical insurance would pay them. And if you live in a more poor area, it's even worse because the medical insurance seems to pay for more in those types of areas. So like if you live in North Carolina, the medical insurance will pay for you to be locked up somewhere even longer, maybe even up to 5 years. And of course, for the medical insurance to pay, they have to give you some type of label. Kind of irrelevant, but anywho, some of the people were in those situations where their parents just brought them there and said, nothing's wrong with them. We just don't want them anymore. I remember this one girl, she came in there in that type of situation. Her parents, they were talking about it and they were like, we just don't want her anymore. And I've seen so many of those. That's honestly, I feel like that's the most traumatizing part though. Just seeing people sit locked in a room for no reason, being abused and drugged and beat on and even essayed sometimes. Not that there's ever a reason for any of that, so just kind of ignore that part, but I just, the memories are so blurry, but the one thing I'll always remember is watching people cry all day. I'm kind of going off somewhere else. Anywho, yeah, so back to the thing. So this boy, something happened with his parents where they weren't around, so him and his brother live with their aunt. And their aunt didn't really like either of them, but I guess he was a scapegoat or something. And they were mad at him all the time because he was quote unquote depressed. Anybody would be depressed if they're locked up all the time. And so, of course, the mental health system had him on Xanax, and he was addicted to the Xanax that they put him on. And so, he would get locked up so much. He was 16 in the 5th grade, supposed to be in the 5th grade. Now, I kind of doubt that they would even really let him walk into a 5th grade classroom anyway, but that's the grade that he would have been in if he would have actually got to be in school and he wasn't locked up every single other week. Although this was a long-term placement. Like, when I got in there, even though they claimed that they're 30 days, that's what they always did, especially in North Carolina. They always claimed that they're 30 days max, but everybody in there has been in there for like 2 years and stuff. So, yeah, everybody in there had already been in there for almost a year or a year plus. And, like, I swear that's always going to be the one thing you'll remember is how people get on the phone crying to their parents saying that they're sorry when they really never did anything wrong in the first place and begging to go home. I remember in this other placement, I honestly wasn't even in that many. I was only ever in like 2 or 3. But it's like, it feels like I was in so many, but I really wasn't. The recording stopped because my phone started acting crazy as usual. But yeah, I really wasn't in that many placements. I was only ever in like 2 or 3. Like, I know people that started getting locked up at 12, and by 13 they had already been in 30 plus. And commonly some of the same ones. Because some people's parents, they put them in the same one like every other week, every time they get mad about something. Like, whenever they don't wash the dishes, oh, you're going to the mental facility. Because, I mean, I feel like, other than the juvenile justice branch, it's kind of one of the easiest ones to get your kid put in, because all you really have to do is bring them there. But like for some TTIs, they cost a lot of money, so that's commonly where rich people send their kids when they don't send them to boarding schools. But anywho, I think that was it. No, actually, no. One last story. So this might have been the same placement that I was just mentioning with the girl who. No, did I even say that part? Oh, yeah. So I remember this one little blur of a memory because so much of this is repressed memories, especially due to all the drugging, but also just like the dissociation. But there was this one girl, she was on the phone crying, and her mom was about to send her to her ranch. That's the same TTI that the the Daniel Bergoli girl got sent to, the one that became an industry plant, and like her abuse was really just a part of the trauma-based mind control, and that's why they sent her there to go through all that stuff, so that way her mom could then make her industry plant to make more money off of her. Really messed up situation. And then of course a lot of people just seen it as a quote unquote race thing, but they didn't really see the bigger picture of how her mom was behind all of it. People wanted to make it about her being a quote unquote racist kid. Stupid little stuff. Let me not even go into that before I go somewhere else. Anywho. Oh yeah, but actually no. I have one other thing to say about that. If you really are so upset about stuff like that to where you're gonna go bash a kid for quote unquote being racist and not even look at the bigger picture, you really are just, you need to like actually learn about your actual ethnic origins so you can actually have some pride in your identity instead of really being in all this racial label mess to where any and everything can just hurt your feelings so bad to where you feel like you need to go bash kids who are being heavily exploited. Anywho, yeah, so this girl was crying on the phone. I think she was about 13, 14, can't really remember. But hold up. I'm laughing because I just had a flashback of something else that was funny from the situation. So yeah, she was crying because she was about to get sent to a TTI and she was begging her mom not to. And she was telling her mom that she's sorry. But the funny memory I just had, there was this one girl. So she got out like a few days after I got in. And let me tell you, literally the day she got out, her relatives put her back in there. No, the next day. So she literally got out, and then the next day, she was put back in there, and she was already in there for like 5+ months, like, and no wonder she wanted to kill herself. It's not funny, but it's like the moral of the story, if that makes sense. But yeah, anywho, what point was I getting at? Back to the school thing. So, um. No, actually, I want to say something about the whole getting housed comment. They say that as if he actually has the option to just get housed, or as if anybody really has the option to just get housed. Like, what is that even supposed to mean? I mean, I get that they're probably saying, like, if he just wanders into the CPS facility, they'll get him housed, as if that's even how that works whatsoever, even if somebody wanted to do that. But who wants to be in a human trafficking organization anyway? And another thing about the whole school comment. So, I mean, it's definitely everybody should know how to read and count. But that school stuff, that's kind of whatever. That's indoctrination. School is literally made for the same thing as the music industry. Same reason. What people honestly really should do, definitely learn how to read and count and all that stuff, obviously. Learn some math, but learn a trade. That's what people should really be doing. Leave all that other stuff to the side and learn a trade. And as I say all the time now, learn wilderness survival, bushcraft, hunting, gardening, farming, volunteer on a farm if possible. I was trying to find a farm job that wasn't really going so well, so now I just volunteer on the farm. What else? Oh yeah, learn to fish. That's kind of, I mean, being a like fisherman, that definitely takes some skill, but like basic fishing could be somewhat easy. And making a fishing rod could also be somewhat easy if you have a string. I know what I used to do when I was younger. I would just get a stick, get some string, and I would fold a paper clip. And believe it or not, it did somewhat work. Somewhat. But that's what people should be learning. And like I already said in another video that I may or may not have uploaded. No, I think I did. I think that was in my part 1 about the whole situation with the homeless 14-year-old. I might have mentioned it, I guess. But things are about to go downhill real quick. Like, for one, they're planning on doing away with the education system so that way the corporations, the big corporations, can own the schools. Like, in some places, Amazon and those other places I can't remember the name of, they already have their own schools. I think, what was it? Amazon and Meta, I think. That's part of why they want to do away with the school system, so that way the corporations can own the schools. Another thing is that a lot of stuff is about to start happening anyway. So that school career thing is gonna kind of be up in the air. Like for one, the Western or the European nations, they're falling. That's a part of their judgment. They're falling, so that's gonna be that. A lot of people have already had dreams, even more dreams recently, of the whole thing with the West Coast flooding, and even like some things happen. Well, really both coasts, but the West Coast especially, really soon. Like sometime next year, maybe. Of course, nobody's like really setting dates and times, but a lot of people have had dreams about that. Me in February, there was this one dude who had his in March and believed that it would happen by next March. Someone else I know, and apparently even my teacher, he believes summertime, but everybody else's dreams are really saying like spring. So yeah, with all the judgment type things that are about to happen in the US specifically, from the weather stuff to the divide and conquer civil war that's planned, that's going to revolve around the left right mind herd and bull crap, to the whole thing with the US being conquered by Russia and China eventually, which a lot of people have had a lot of dreams about recently, and I had mine in June or July. It's like people, I don't know, I don't really know what to say about it, but things aren't going back to normal. And there's more important things to have your mind on. And it's not getting a career so you can have some huge house and cars so you can pretend to be happy when you're not and post pictures on Instagram to make all the people who bullied you in kindergarten feel some type of way. Or to try to prove something to somebody instead of seeking out your true purpose. None of that stuff is real. Honestly, none of that stuff was ever real, but it's definitely not real or relevant now. So, yeah. And lastly, the fact that they had the nerve to make this comment as if he even has control over any of those things. Because, like I said, and like you should already know, he can't enroll himself in school. And going to school without an address is somewhat difficult, but there is the McKinney-Vento Act. But like people in support groups say, that is really for homeless kids with families. That doesn't really work if you're in a situation like he is where you're laying low. What else was it? Oh, yeah. So this just is one example of how people are trying to act like the family system is supposed to be torn apart and kids are supposed to have to raise themselves. I also don't like the word curses that are being spoken over him or other people in situations like his. It's like, I don't know, it's this weird thing where either when you're in a bad situation, people either try to make you feel like you're never going to escape and like you're going to die in there, or they try to scare you about all the things that are going to happen once you escape, or try to make you feel like you're never going to be able to get through the situation. Now, obviously, definitely don't hang around weird, messed up people and don't do drugs and, what else was I going to say? Don't commit crimes either. That's something I wanted to mention. if you've already been in the Cash for Kids system, you've already had a lot of your life stripped away from you for no reason. So don't do anything that'll get you locked up for a reason. Especially when you're already supposed to be laying low anyway, because then you'll really, really be looked for. Here's some more bullcrap of somebody who's acting like they don't know the laws. They would not be looking for him unless he did something extreme. No one knows the story except police and social workers. And I don't think they will be telling Daisy or John the details. So, as far as the Daisy lady and the John dude, like I said in the first video, I already could tell how weird the situation was, and I felt like Daisy was just another one of the molester people when he mentioned her in the interview before I had even seen the videos with Daisy actually in it. But yeah, he obviously doesn't need to be around them, but he's fallen into the common trap of looking for a parent figure and all that, and wanting love, quote unquote love. So yeah, there's that. But back to the comment though, as a whole, this is all bullcrap. Of course they're going to be looking for him, not just because he's like doing the lay low till 18 thing or supposedly trying to lay low, I guess, but he's also doing interviews. For one, when you do these interviews, I'm pretty sure people are going to report it to the police. And it just makes things so much worse for you. And also, of course, the systems are going to want to try to run up and act like they're trying to play hero, like they're not just trying to traffic you. Because when you do these interviews, it makes the social workers and stuff say, oh, dang, this is making us look bad. Now we need to act like we actually care and are doing something. So those interviews definitely made it worse for him. And like I said in other videos, it makes it worse and puts him in danger for so many different reasons. And I really don't understand why he won't stay out of people's cameras. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. It kind of makes me think of when I was being smear campaign really bad and I had people trying to make me feel like it was my fault. And they were like, well, now nobody's ever gonna quote unquote help you where you're laying low because you're getting too much media attention. Honestly, it really wasn't as bad now looking back. It seemed bad, especially because the YouTube videos are being made about me by the exploitative true crime channels. But it's like, it honestly wasn't that bad. Really, what's really, really bad isn't the smear campaign happening to you by other people, but when you hop in a spotlight like he's doing, which I really don't know why. I guess he just wants to tell a story really bad. But when you hop in a spotlight like he's doing, and you get in these interviews where people will then spread you around and share the video talking crap about you and make comments about you, like now in every video that he pops up in that's talking about the homeless issue in California, people in the comments who have seen the original interview he was in with that Mark, whatever his name is, probably not Mark. I think I'm thinking about the Atlanta street interviews dude because he just makes me so mad. But people who have seen that, now whenever they see him in another video, they'll be like, oh, there's that bum kid, or there's that kid who wants nothing good for himself, and they'll talk junk about him. It's like when you get in these interviews, you're creating your own flying monkeys and enablers who are going to now jump together as abusive people do to try to force you back into your previous situation or worse. I'm not gonna lie though, it is kind of funny and weird that the police know that this boy is living in Daisy's tent, but they won't ever just go get him. That's the funny thing to me, but his laying low skills, I guess what it is that he feels comfortable and safe enough with these people, so he doesn't want to leave this area, and that's why he's doing a poor job laying low, because he's scared to really go anywhere else because he feels comfortable around there. And I get it. When you know that like you have a place that you can keep your stuff, when you know you have a place to get food, it's scary and hard to just up and move to another spot because you're going to have to find that stuff all over again, if at all. It's a lot of uncertainties when you're in these types of situations. But you can't get comfortable in these types of situations. Like I've mentioned before, some people who have done the lay low till 18 thing or are doing it, they become vagabonds. They travel all the time. Or people who just don't have family or anywhere to go. I mentioned before, when I started going to this resource center, I met these two foster kids who were 19 at the time. And they pretty much just They do van life. They travel and they sell art and clothes that they make. And so they do that. Because the thing is, like, when you really don't have anywhere to go, you kind of get used to just moving around. And I mean, when you're being trafficked through the Cash for Kids system, especially as a foster kid, you get used to never staying put in one spot, and you just go from one place to another. So you pick up the vagabond spirit, and can't remember what the other ones were called that go along with that. Oh yeah, I remember what I was really trying to say. The vagabond spirit commonly goes back to a spirit of rejection from trauma. Why are they wasting so much time / resources on this one kid? He obviously doesn't want help. Let him live on the streets for a few years. Maybe he needs a reality check. First of all, he's obviously already been living on the streets a couple of times for some years. And what help and what resources? Like, foster kids commonly end up homeless. Well, okay, wait a minute. Let me start over. For one, being in foster care is being homeless in and of itself. Also, being in CPS, or really any branch of the Cash for Kids system, is trafficking in and of itself. Aside from the fact that you can get into full blown, like high level sex trafficking and stuff through CPS. So, aside from that, CPS in and of itself is trafficking. And, oh yeah, I remember what I was gonna say. I already have a couple of videos about this too. It's already a known fact that when CPS doesn't have anywhere to place the kids, if you're not thrown into like a juvenile jail or some mental facility because they have nowhere else to put you. In some states, like in I think Florida and Georgia, they may put the kid in a hotel. In the Bronx, they have a lot of kids grouped up together living under bridges because their placement times have ran out and they have nowhere else to go. So they live under a bridge until the social worker finds some other home to put them in. So foster kids commonly end up homeless multiple times before 18, and then at 18 they're thrown out onto the streets, and they either get stuck homeless or they end up in prison or something, or both. So point is, he'd be homeless regardless. Another thing, there is no help. People already know this, but they don't want to admit this. If you've ever been in any type of situation where you needed help, you would already know there is no system put in place to help anybody with anything. And I remember like a while back, I used to like talk about the ageist laws with the under 18 thing, but really, there's no system put in place to help anybody with anything. Society has to help each other, or at least a small community of people have to get together and help each other, because other than that, nobody's getting help with jack. I remember in this one placement I was in, there was this 9-year-old boy in there who was in foster care. And I remember his mom and sister, they would come to the meetings that he would have with the different staff, like every couple of months or whatever. And I know for a fact, I mean, I'm sure a lot of stuff happened, but he might as well be with them. I mean, at least possibly if he was with them, if he really needed to like run away or something, he'd be able to. But that's kind of hard to do in these lockdown facilities. So of course, the foster care system got him put in there. And I'm glad that at least his mom and sister were able to come see him. Like, obviously, she probably did something or whatever, but... So, I had to take notes on where I was last at because my phone powered off and I haven't even had the time to actually try to finish this. So, to finish off like 3 days later, what I was last about to say is that, a lot of people have said things like, I'd rather have stayed home and got beaten and essayed than had went into the foster care system. And then other people have said, a lot of times being on the streets is safer than CPS custody. And then two, as a side note, but it has something to do with the boy that I had met in this one placement. This boy had been abused at the orphanages / group homes he had been at. He had bruises all over, from top to bottom. like from his face and whip marks all over his back. He told me that like they would take the kids outside and beat them with switches and stuff. He had the bad black boy with ADHD label, and he was on more than 8 psychotropics. And at this place, I think at really all placements like this, usually like you get drugged 3 times a day. So like 8 pills, and that's just for the morning. And he had to turn off the bowel side effect bad, like really bad. He was honestly pretty small, I think even for his age. He was 9, but he looked pregnant. That's how bad he had to turn off the bowel side effect. And like I said, this is really common. Like if you don't end up dying, your bowels don't burst, or if you're let off the drugs, or something like that, or you're somehow able to survive only using the bathroom once a month, long term, this is the side effect, or one of them, that will give you colon cancer eventually, because it throws off your intestinal microbiome. It also messes up your whole body, obviously, along with the brain damage side effects, and even the side effect of the drugs tearing down your gut lining, giving you gut permeability. And, oh yeah, so colon cancer, SIBO that backtracks up from the colon, autoimmune disease, because all that stuff goes hand in hand, and a whole bunch of other things that you can get from that one side effect. And he also said that he had been vegetarian his whole life, but when he was in this placement, all they really had to give us was like, well, they got their food from Walmart. Surprisingly, they actually cooked their food here, but they usually just had like hot dogs and sandwiches and SpaghettiOs. So he was forced to start eating meat. He said he liked it, but he wasn't supposed to eat meat and never had before. And it honestly makes me wonder if he's even still alive or not, because like if your intestines are already used to you only eating fruits and vegetables, and now you're being forced to eat meat most of the time, and you're already on drugs that slow down your intestines and turn off the bowels or severely slow them down, that just makes things even worse. It makes it even more likely that he would be one of the people whose bowels end up bursting. And that does happen pretty often. It's always covered up. And commonly, well, I don't know. I could give this one example. So my dad had this aunt that went through some similar stuff, somewhat, I guess, and she had to turn off the bowel side effect. She had the metabolic center / diabetes side effect, which of course comes along with heart failure. So when her bowels burst from the turn off the bowel side effect, and it came out both ends, because that's what happens when your bowels burst, the doctors were just able to blame it on a stroke and lie and say she had a stroke, which honestly doesn't even make sense. That's a stupid lie, but somebody who doesn't know any better, they'll go along with some bullcrap like that. Well, not even somebody that doesn't know any better. People who don't care and probably were taking her through some type of, I don't know, some type of medical abuse situation. I never met her though, but yeah, so that happens a lot, and it's commonly covered up. Not commonly, it always is. And another thing that I forgot I had wrote down, which is number 3. At this specific placement, something that I noticed is that everybody, I might have already said this actually, everyone had already been in there for like either over a year or more than 5 or 6 months. And when I asked about that, I was told because they just got here. And I was told that apparently 1 year is just getting there. And my point of saying all this is that people should already know the cash for kids system is not a place that anyone should be, regardless of what branch it is. So people like this kid in these videos, he's definitely better out there than in the cash for kids system, being trafficked and abused and drugged and all that. But what he'd have to do is actually lay low correctly not do risky things and avoid risky people at all costs. And maybe even try to like already be in a camp spot somewhere before it even gets dark. So that way he's not like out walking around at night. So this person said, why give Daisy the time of day? She cannot take care of her own kids, and she wants to protect the 14-year-old. This kid knows who she is, and he knows he can do what he wants to do. More victim blaming. The 14-year-old has no business out on his own. And that's the thing. He doesn't have a choice anyway, but what people have to understand is that realistically, it's like the Western world they want to infantilize people, but then when they want to do whatever they want to do to the person, then they're mature and then they're grown and then all that stuff. Daisy and the blonde guy encouraged the boy to be on the run. The kid was on a video just put out by Melanie Angelica about Los Angeles. He says she's adopted him. Same with Daisy. This was a video where 2 social workers had came out to quote-unquote look for him. This person said, I saw the kid today in Long Beach by the Pike. He was skating near the aquarium, FYI. This is why you don't get in interviews. The evil, messed up people see you in videos like this, and you're in these interviews and stuff talking about your situation. Especially when you're in a situation where people that want to act like they're at the top of the caste system will like look down on you, and they'll use you as an example to make themselves feel better. These types of people who want you put down are going to constantly rat you out. They're going to snitch. That's another reason to not do this. And as far as I know, he doesn't have like any articles out about him, I don't think. Or maybe he might now, but I don't think he was like ever like on the news or anything as a missing person. So really, it seems like the media attention he's getting is just because these interviews he keeps getting in for whatever reason. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people around him are the ones encouraging him to do these so they can make money off of him, which is doing nothing but making his situation worse. Good for him, he got away from these loonies. Daisy's trying to hook up with him. I'm not gonna lie though, I feel like all the people trying to act like that Daisy and whoever these other people are the victim are probably just people that think Daisy's hot or something. And if not that, it's just people that are into this weird stuff too. Then they said, I suspect so too. Searching for the young adult, Nutty Daisy and the nutcase she's with have been playing games with the police, and now the 2 women that do nothing but stand around, talk, and eat, all while getting paid. Why the drug addicts play homeless? That kid is just a felony waiting to happen, and played everybody involved like a master criminal. Disgusting. Played everybody involved in what way? It's like, I don't even really know what some of the comments are really talking about. It's like most people are just making up this story in their head about who he is and what he's doing, and it's really not making sense. Like, honestly, I really just feel like if he wouldn't have started doing these interviews, or somebody wouldn't have manipulated him into doing these interviews, that the Cash for Kids system staff, like the police trying to kidnap him, and social workers wouldn't even really be after him like that. Because, I mean, it sounds like he's been homeless off and on for multiple years. But when media attention starts happening, then CPS is obviously going to feel like, oh, we need to start acting like we're trying to do something to quote-unquote help for those ignorant people that act like there even is help. Because now we're being like put out there. And yeah, that's what I think. But either way, this comment is just, I don't even really know what to say. Like, he's being played, and From what I have heard from a video I recently watched that's kind of new, a lot of stuff that Daisy's saying is happening isn't even happening. She's just making stuff up. But that's kind of for a whole nother video. But that's why I really hope he'll stay out the spotlight, though, because people like this, these are the people that'll see him and call the police on him while he's not paying attention to get him locked up and thrown into the cash for kids system, or back in his previous situation, which kind of sounds like he was in a group home at one point. Or they'll call the police on him and claim he did something that he didn't even do just to get him locked up. Who cares about that being? So, yeah, a lot of stuff I can say about that. This is definitely a racial comment. I think it has something to do with, like, the head shape that certain ethnic groups have. This is something that people talk about a lot. So that's what this person is talking about. This is from the documentary made by whatever that lady's name was. Can't remember it. It was mentioned some comments back, but the Los Angeles documentary. And she definitely got some hate for making that video. And in this video, he tried to say he was quote-unquote like 24. But that's the thing, though. If you don't look like you could be 24, then at least try to say you're 18 or something like that. Say you're like 18 or 19. But you can't do interviews and admit you're 14 and then get in another interview and say you're 24. Like, to be truthfully honest, though, even if you do look young, if you keep telling people you're 18 and, I don't know, I guess you don't act stereotypically young, people eventually believe you. Like, I mean, I would say that I'm definitely pretty age regressed and stuff, but I am pretty wise, so I remember a lot of older people, they would just believe me, and, like, I remember this one dude back in Alabama or something like that, he was like, you look 12, or like 11, but you know too much, so you have to be like 25 plus. So yeah, if you keep telling people, they'll eventually believe you, especially if you seem to be like moving and acting in ways that aren't stereotypically young, I guess. And when I say moving and acting, I mean like not putting yourself in risky situations or doing immature things. So, like, metaphorically moving and acting, not like literally. I mean, some people do feel some type of ways about mannerisms people may have, but I mean, you can't really always control that anyway because you get so used to, like, physical mannerisms you have, but that's not what I'm talking about anyway. So, yeah. Hearing that kid was homeless was so sad. People really have no sympathy or understanding why people get to where they are and they just look down. That's the thing, though. The people that are quote-unquote looking down either have chomo philosophies themselves that they're into, and or they're just doing the usual of trying to find somebody to label and put under you to give yourself the false sense of success and the keep yourself at the top of the imaginary totem pole, as if the middle class isn't being destroyed, and as if the European nations aren't falling, and Babylon isn't falling, and the dollar isn't about to fall, and a whole bunch of things aren't about to happen. That's going to have everybody who isn't the 1% at the same level. It was built on an illusion right from the start of the movie industry, and it's broken. Last place I'd ever go. I would say, honestly, before the start of the movie industry. But the reason that this person made this comment is because this person who made this documentary was also asking people if they really felt like the Los Angeles dream or the American dream, something like that, was real, or if it was still what it used to be or something like that.